Well, hey YouTube, I'm back again. Here we are. We're going to put this ISX cm871. The 871 is a dual overhead cam engine. What happened on this one? What happens a lot, I've had quite a few of these do this. This one here, number 3 cylinder, as you can see, that's where the problem was. The cylinder's real wet with oil and fuel and everything. The cup will crack or the head will crack, and it'll push the exhaust back through the fuel system back into the fuel tank, and then the fuel filters will start plugging on you all the time, because if you pull your fuel filter out, especially that cartridge looking water separator filter that sits up here, if you've got this style of filter, it's got the little bowl up here, and the cartridge filter, it's a paper filter. You'll take some of that in your fingers there, and it'll feel real gritty, and it's real black. It's carbon, so that means you got head problems most of the time on these. Anyway, I in-framed this engine probably 8 years ago, and that was a Cummins reman head that we stuck on there. Actually, yeah, I painted this one. Most of them I don't even paint them unless the owner specifically wants it, you know. Some guys will say I don't have any pride in what I do, but I don't. A lot of my customers, they don't care. They want it to run. So minor details like that don't bother them. But anyway, this is a brand new cylinder head I bought from Diesel Cast West. We're just double checking to make sure it's got all of the things that it's supposed to have, as far as I can tell. Make sure all the oil feed holes are drilled into the head that feed the rockers and things match up. That's why I got them standing up on their end like this. I've just been matching stuff up. I already got lift and eye and a water neck. This plug here was not in there. I had to take this plug out of the head, this other head, and put in there. Make sure all the freeze plugs are in there where they need to be, especially down here on the end, especially the forward end of the head where it goes up against the front cover. You want to make sure that all the plugs are in that too. I've already looked at that, because I mean, once you get it on there and you got a leak there, there's no, either the front cover's got to come off or pull the head back off. So anyhow, I'm just double checking to make sure everything's like for like. And you see this kind of looks like maybe some Cosmoline or something on it. We need to take some brake clean, blow it off, dry it off, make sure it's nice and dry. I've already cleaned up the block deck surface and got the cylinder head gasket on there. Check my protrusion. My protrusion sit right there where it needs to be. It's around 12 thousandths on every cylinder, so we're good to go there. So anyways, I'm just double checking this head, and then I'll pick it up. Just a little bit about what happened. There's a 2014 Dodge pickup sitting over there. Come over by the heater. It's a little bit cold today. I know it's not 25 below zero. Every time I say something about it being cold, there always has to be some Canadian or some Minnesota guy or some guy in Siberia that tells me how much colder it is there, and show us. He's got to pull his pecker out and show everybody how longer his pecker is and everybody else. But anyways, it was around 2 degrees when I started my truck this morning. Didn't want to start, and it's not really warming up very good today. So it was cold enough for me. Anyways, it's still kind of cold in the shop here. But that Dodge pickup yesterday, it's got a 5.7 Hemi in it. And what had happened on that pickup over there, guy drug it in here quite a while ago. It's one of my ranch customers, good guys. But this guy is pretty mechanically inclined. I mean, he builds race cars for, you know, he used to do it for a living, and I can't remember what class cars he builds now, but I mean, he's a really talented guy. I mean, he builds the chassis, the tube chassis from the ground up, has all the tubing benders, welds it all together. Some of the things I've went in that shop and seen him and go, holy cow, man, you built all that? Pretty impressive. But he's kind of on the newer stuff like this. He just doesn't do it every day, you know, so he's kind of lost on some of this newer stuff. And well, this was his wife's pickup, and started missing real bad, and so they took it into somebody up in town, and they told him it needed a new engine because they had a bad cam in it. So he took it back and said, I'll just fix it. Well, he tore it apart, and I guess it had a collapsed lifter is all that was wrong with it, so he just decided to go ahead and put a set of new lifters and a cam in it himself. So long story short, we messed with it for quite a while yesterday. We got a bunch of the codes to go away, but the one code that we couldn't get it to go away, and we never could get it to run right, it had a PO300, a multiple cylinder misfire, and you could watch, there's misfire data on the Altel scanner, and you can watch which cylinders are misfiring, and it clatters really bad. And I finally looked at Trent and I said, well, he got it out of time and it ate a bunch of valves. That's what happened. So I mean, that's what happened. We can get it to run, but I mean, it's lazy. It's really lazy. Clatters, misfires on like 4 cylinders. And I mean, I guess I could get a compression tester and check my compression on those cylinders, but I mean, it kind of seems like to me it's out of time. So, and they're a interference engine, so it doesn't take hardly anything if you're a little bit off on one of those things to start eating valves. But anyways, that'll be a good project. I'll kind of have to I've got Trent working on a couple of different things. I got him working on this thing here. It's been sitting here forever too, that I'd never have had time to work on. And we got a long block 6.7 here. The customer just decided that he didn't want to rebuild the other one, and it's up to him, you know. So he bought this long block. So we got a gasket kit for this long block, but it didn't have near what we needed in there. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't there. Injector O-rings, a lot of things that weren't in this gasket kit that came with this long block. So the intake manifold gasket wasn't there. There were some other gaskets we looked. Oh yeah, the oil cooler. No, the oil cooler gaskets are right there. But anyways, we had to order all those gaskets, and those were supposed to be in Tuesday. So we had him working on that, and then also Monday morning he's going to get going on this. I've got Identifix that has a complete procedure on it. I think what we want to do, maybe, I've got a compression tester. We'll check compression. Cylinder 1 was the worst. It was misfiring really bad. So we did our due diligence on that, and there was no coil codes on number 1, but we took the coil. It's got, you know, these Hemis have 2 spark plugs per cylinder, so I do it kind of an oaky way. I just pull the coil boots out, or the whole coil, and the coil boots stay on the coil, and then I plug the coil in, and I take the plugs out, stick them in there, and I just laid it over here on the grounded both those plugs and kind of wedged them in there where the alternator is, where they'd ground. I just started the pickup, and it had nice, good, crisp blue spark. And I said, well, there ain't nothing wrong with that. So, and it was popping out of there, but it didn't sound quite right. So I got a feeling we'll probably ought to get a compression tester on it Monday morning just to verify. And if it's got low compression on the cylinder, I think what we'll do is I'll tell Trent just to dump the water on it, pull all this stuff off here, pull the front cover off of it, and verify timing. Roll it around and make sure it's in time. If it's not in time, which I'm pretty certain it's not. I mean, because it wasn't doing any of this before we worked on it. I just had a misfire on 1 cylinder, not 4 cylinders, you know. So anyway, well guys, I'm gonna get back over here and get this new head cleaned up. We'll get her craned up in the air and slap her on the block and start the fun procedure of torquing it down. An extended hood Pete sure is nice to work on. These short-nosed trucks, man, kind of a pain sometimes, like Freightliners and Internationals. You work on an extended hood Pete, and then you work on one of these and you realize how good you had it. This camera to stand up, hopefully. Okay, so far let me look at these back holes here, see if I'm kind of lined up back here. I think so. Looks like she's sitting right down where she needs to be. Okay. Well, I guess we'll start prepping head bolts and Getting them cleaned up, oiled up. Start putting head bolts in her. You know, most of the time I use lubriplate assembly lube, and I've used this quite a bit as well. This Lucas assembly lube. I ran out of a lubriplate the other day, and I asked my wife to go get me some. And the only thing she could find was this, and I said, well, you know, I've used that before. It seemed to work just fine. But usually, if I even use lubriplate, what I'll do is, here's my reasoning behind this. See where the head bolt holes are in the cylinder head. I'll put some of this on there and smear it around, and that way, when the head bolt, I'll lube up the actual shank of the bolt and the threads, dip them in clean engine oil. Got a piece of damn wood down in my new cylinder head there. And the whole purpose of that is I don't like the head bolt, the shoulder of the bolt, the head of the bolt to bite. I want it to be lubricated to where it spins on that head freely. When we torque it down and we get a good, true, tight torque, it pulls it down real good. So I'll pre-lube my bearings after I get my head torqued down. But I just thought I'd mention that. I'll tell you, one of the best things, I started doing these ISXs years ago, and I didn't have this socket, and I broke sockets constantly. Impact sockets, you know, taking them loose and torquing them down. I got this one off Apex Tool Company, and it's the heavy walled, real long one. I mean, it's got the marks on there, 90 degrees apart, 4 of them. So you can just make a mark on the head, and you know, and then just run your line around to match up 90 degrees apart. So it's really nice. We're gonna, let's set this thing. That's another nice thing about these Milwaukees and all this electric stuff they got now. I can turn this down to level 1 and just go real easy with it, and then I can really control the, whereas with the air gun you can't really control it. It's either all or none, it seems like. I'm just running them down. Boy, this electric stuff sure has come a long ways in its technology, hasn't it? Remember the first like battery powered electric grease guns? God, they were just garbage. These new ones now, it's like I need to get me one, because I've got some buddies that got some, and man, they'll grease 2 or 3 trucks or something like that with one battery. It's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Way better than what it used to be. But the only drawback is anything with, you know, batteries is cold weather. Cold weather, it doesn't like them. People have their brand preference, but mine is Milwaukee. I don't know, probably because my grandpa did a lot of carpentry work when I was young, and he always had Milwaukee electric tools before they came out with their battery powered tool line. He always had excellent, you know, said they were just awesome tools. They've been around for a long time. This 3/4 Milwaukee impact, a guy named Bill Knack back over in, he's gonna be mad, I think he's in New York, sent me this. Hell of a good guy. I mean, just a hell of a good guy. He's done a lot of stuff for me since I went out on my YouTube channel. He's one of those guys that like I said, you just keep doing it, you know. There's a lot of good people out there, such as himself, that support you. Supposed to have a 6170M John Deere that's coming for a, well, I think it's going to be an engine rebuild. They were using it for potato harvest, and it wasn't wanting to start. You know, John Deere loves using that cloth-braided fuel line. And that cloth-braided fuel line is just horrible for sucking air. And the 6170M's got a 6068 common rail Tier 4 engine in it. So, first thing I did is I went over there and, you know, of course, looked at the, I don't think I'm going to be able to get, can I get on that one? Oh man, just barely. International was thinking about me. I went over there, you know, during potato harvest, and he said it's got a bunch of codes flashing too, and well, I just saw that rotted out line. It was all seeping fuel, and I thought, well, that's got to be what it is, you know, and sucking air. And I replaced everything, going to the fuel cooler, going to the suction side of the lift pump, all the way, you know, returns, everything. I just took a roll of 5/16 fuel line, just changed all of it. Well, the tractor was kind of already warmed up when I started on that process. So he called me a couple of days later and he says, man, I'm still having to squirt ether in it to get it started. I said, man, that's not good on a common rail engine. You shouldn't have to. So I went over there and did some more testing, and I noticed that the code that was flashing, which I should have checked the first time, was crankcase pressure, excessive crankcase pressure. Oh shoot, I forgot these two up here. So the operator, he proceeds to tell me that he's changed, like, I don't know, can't remember what but can't remember the exact details, but it's way more than what it should. I mean, those blow-by filters, you shouldn't have to change those filters very often. I know, like on a truck engine, it's every, like on these Cummins, they recommend every 60,000 miles. But he was like, he changed like 2 of them in like the last couple months or something, and this one was saturated with oil again. So I took on those John Deeres, there's a little elbow that comes out of the valve cover, and it'll have another elbow with a rubber hose on it, and it'll plug into the blow-by filter. And I just unplugged that, and they'd already started it with ether and had it running that day, and I started it up, and man, it was just had blow-by like crazy. And I told him, I said, well, I'm just willing to bet that the reason you're ether injecting in it to start it is probably because it has low compression. So they were going to run it the rest of the season, and he said they were going to bring it in, but I don't know. I got to call Greg and ask him if that's still on the itinerary, or they decided to do something different. Some of these guys will think about it, and then they'll get, you know, they'll just go over there and get another tractor and go buy another tractor. So anyway, all right, guys, I got to get my torque wrench out. Start out with the 1/2-inch drive torque wrench and start torquing these down. All right, so we started at 150 foot-pounds. I'm gonna go first 4 bolts are the only kind of weird part about it. They want you to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you just go, you know, work your way to the, and you go 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, there's no more crisscross. It's only on the first 4 bolts. That's how I got my tooth knocked out, was doing this very same thing. That front tooth of mine that's chipped, I had a socket break when I was torquing just like this. I'm trying to keep in mind to keep my head away from it this time. Yeah, the socket cracked and slipped on the socket. And the ratchet hit me right in the mouth. So now I try to at least hit it, get it to where it'll hit me in the chest. See what's that head gasket squished already? Kind of wish I'd put that lifting eye on there later. Alright guys, I'm gonna go get a paint marker and mark the ones I've done. I know which ones I've done. Here, we're on number 6, so that way I don't lose track. So we'll do 150 with the 1/2 inch drive torque wrench. Then we'll get the 3/4 inch drive torque wrench. We'll go to 300 foot-pounds. And then we'll go with the impact with our special socket to 90 degrees. Okay, we got it all in sequence to 150. Now we'll go 300 with the 3/4 inch drive torque wrench. Let's see. Stand out here and walk it over. You know what I'm going to do right quick? I'm kind of tired of fighting this damn lifting eye. Shouldn't have put it on there yet. It's just kind of in the way and the torque wrench hits it every time. I'm just going to zip it off real quick and get the darn thing out of my way. You'd use it for picking up the engine, but for pulling the head you don't need that lifting eye. These dual overhead cam motors, you just stick a strap through the on each side through the cam bearing holes there. Okay, life might be a little better now. All right. Here's the first one. Whew. Whew. Number 3. Who needs to go to the gym? Why don't you be a heavy equipment mechanic? You'll be in the best shape of your life. Once I was about another couple inches taller, I could see those head bolts standing on the ground. I'll have to take a breather here in a little bit. Number 6. Take a little breather. I gotta shed this this hoodie here, man. I'm getting hot. Alright, I gotta shed some clothing, guys, and start back off here on number 7. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, let's see, wait, yeah, you get it. You get the idea. Alrighty. Nice thing about this socket, let me get my paint marker out here, is that you can set her fairly close, see the marks on it. Just line it up and make you a mark like that, and then just take your impact. And just line the next set of marks up with that mark you made on the head. It's pretty easy. There we are, there's 90 degrees. Pretty simple, huh? And just go over it in sequence. Let me make sure, I gotta make sure that I'm remembering right. I'm pretty certain it's 90 degrees. Hopefully it's not 180. No, it's 150, 390 degrees. So, okay guys, that's just go in sequence, and if you don't have a 3/4 impact, you can do her by hand. Used to do them by hand all the time, but I bought this socket. I don't do that anymore. Alright, so after you get your cams in there, just make sure you're getting your timing wedges on the right cam, because on this one here, it's got a, just like this, it's got a 4/6 timing code on it. So your valve cover doesn't say this, if I remember right. Yeah, it don't. It just says 4 and 6. I don't think it says injector valve on it. I'll make sure, but I had to look it up on Quickser. First number is the injector wedge, which is a 4. Second number is the valve wedge, which is a 6. So I got those in here. There's your number 6 wedge on the valve, and number 4 degree wedge on the injector cam. So those are locked in there. What I want to do next, I think, is go ahead and get the front valve train on. What I got to do is get those covers cleaned up, get the new seals on those, and then install those, clean this out. I need to loosen this adjustable idler up before I stick those gears on there. But I'm going to go ahead and get these covers first. But one thing you definitely want to do on these is get these noses, these cams, spotless, dry, and clean. and then get your green bearing mount Loctite and put on them. Well, at least this front cover was made in the USA. Most of these newer Cummins, the newer ISXs, everything says made in China. Okay, so read the directions here. Let's see here. Apply a thin coat of Loctite 609 to the inside diameter of the camshaft gear. Okay. Make sure that these tapers, these are tapered gears where they go under the nose of the cam. Make sure they're nice and dry. Try to take some brake clean and just clean them off. So I've got some 609 right here, bearing mount basically is what it is. Come on out of there. That's cold, not wanting to. Thin coat there. I didn't get it very good over here on this other side though. Yeah, come on, don't run out on me. Damn it. See? Too much. There's your valve. We're going to put our ejector cam here on there first. So what you want to do is kind of get your ducks in a row here. There's my socket, so don't just cinch that down on there yet. You're not ready for that step yet. Go ahead and get your bolt and your retainer. Come over here and no timing marks, because you've got wedges in the cam. That's what's timing it, and the crank's pin. Go ahead and slide her on there. Remember to loosen this adjustable idler off. This one doesn't have any scissor gears on it. Tighten it up, and then they tell you to, by hand, and then back it off one flat, like that. You get the other gear, do the same thing. Side is to taper on. This side here. So I'm on the right side here. Back it off flat. So I kind of climb up in here. 10 thousandths, and I just grab an 18mm end wrench to start off with. I'll stand right in here. and stick your feeler gauge right in there like so. Just like that. And snug this up. Okay, now I'll go get a torque wrench, torque the adjustable idler down, and then do the final torques on the both camshaft gears. Alright, 65 foot-pounds on this, plus 60 degrees. This torque wrench has been acting up on me here lately. If I bump the end where the battery is, it's got a bad connection. I gotta stretch the spring out or something in it. Just gotta be conscious not to bump the end on it. Okay, so now 60 degrees. Gotta let it calibrate. And set on 90, need to go to 60. Everything's torque turned on all this newer stuff. It is tight. About 230 foot-pounds. Go take you guys over there, because I don't remember what the torques were on the camshaft gear. Now, load injector camshaft scissor gear. Well, we don't have that. Injector camshaft scissor gear, non-scissor gear. 100 foot-pounds and 90 degrees on the injector, on the 100 foot-pounds, and then 90 degrees. Okay, and I remember there were two different size sockets. Okay. Go back to foot-pounds. 100. And I might have to stand up here. I don't really want to use an extension on that. I guess I should have took that plate off of there. Foot-pounds. Let me make sure. I can't remember if it said 60 or 90. I'm pretty sure it said 90. Don't remember. Degrees. That's pretty tight. Now the gears say China on them, don't they? Yep. break on me, socket. Okay. Now, the other one takes a different size socket. If I remember, it's like 75 foot-pounds plus 120 degrees. If that's what it is, it's 75 plus 120 degrees on the valve camshaft. Okay. $120. Okay, here we go. Okay. Good to go. Now that I got that done, I got to clean the rockers and the rollers up. Probably have to back those off because this is a new head, so it's probably going to be a little bit thicker than what it was. So we don't want to back. Probably should have backed them off before I pulled it off, but I'll just back them off on the bench with an impact, zip them off, go clean them up. Yeah, they're probably, you know, this head's probably going to be a little thicker because that other head was a remand head. So, which is going to make, actually, so if this head's thicker, yeah, that's actually going to make things, well, what am I thinking? There's no push rods, ding dong. But we'll do it anyway. I'm thinking of a push rod engine. It's not going to make much difference here. The only difference when you do a overhead cam engine usually is this is going to get tighter or looser. You know, if you had a remand head you stuck on there and they took 20 thousandths off or 10 thousandths off or whatever, you know, this is going to be tighter here. But now that a new head that's thicker, this would be looser. So we just got to get those cleaned up and put them on. I'm not going to back them off. I'm just going to put them on there, torque it down, and run the valves on it. Of course, new injector O-rings, put your injectors back in there, torque injectors down to 59 foot-pounds. Okay, valve bridges, or crossheads, whatever you want to call them here. So on the intake side, so here's your exhaust side. You notice the exhaust valve stems stick up a little higher above the spring retainers. Okay, on these cm871s, you'll have this little adapter that goes over the stem. It goes just like that, so your bridge will go over the top of that. And those go on the inside. These go on the inside valve stems on the exhaust valves. This is what contacts the rocker for the Jake rocker. So let me get the rest of them valve bridges and put them on. Okay. So yeah, clean up the rockers, and I'll throw the rockers on, run the overhead on it, and then I can pull my timing wedges and my pin out of my crank, and then we'll leave the valve. Well, I'm trying to think this through here. I want to start it with the valve cover off and make sure everything's oiling up here when I start it. So I don't know, I'll cross that bridge when I get there, I guess. So you notice how the rockers are setting up. This is the valve rockers and Jake head rocker. But see how this one's kind of setting up. I haven't torqued this one down or tightened it down. It's just snug. So on these ISXs, just let's come around here. I'm on the A mark right now, but you can get the crankshaft in the right spot. And those just about tripped over that hose. You can get the crankshaft in the right spot, and that valve train will just sit down there flat. That way you're not having to compress those springs and you torque it down. Go to the B mark. Where the hell is the B mark at? It's way the hell over there, huh? There's the B mark. Now the front set of rockers should be sitting down flat now. Yeah, see how they came down? Now they're sitting down flat where they need to be. That's what we want. Now, 22 foot-pounds. Plus 60 degrees. Start in the middle of the shaft here. It'll still suck it down a little ways, but now we can do 60 degrees. A little bit too far with that one, but that's alright. That ain't gonna hurt her none. I haven't got this one yet. Can remember. Last one. And then we'll just start out on B. We'll just start out on B mark. To set our valves, because we're ready for that now. So, what's one? Is it going to be 2 or 5? Obviously going to be number 2. So 15362. Oh. Yeah, number 2 is where we'll start at for running the valves, but I think I'm going to put my tools up and go home for the day. 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. And I think it's time to go home, call her a day, and we'll come back Monday, and we'll run the valve lash on it, and all we gotta do is run the valve, set the jakes at 270, 270 thousandths. I'm trying to remember what's 1427. Hold on a second. I think it's 1427 if I remember right. My memory serves me correctly. Sometimes it doesn't. The valve cover here. Sorts on the valve cover. Yeah. Valve lash gold is 0.356. That's millimeters. 0.686 exhaust, which I think is 1427. I don't remember. We'll get there Monday. Anyways, well guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with you Monday when we start running the valves on it. We'll set the valve lash, set the jakes, adjust the injectors, put the valve cover on it. I'm sitting there, I was like, I'm used to doing front structures. I've been doing a lot of front structure seals and stuff on these things lately, so I don't even know why I pulled the crank damper off this thing, but I did. Went to put it back on. I'm thinking, why'd you pull that off, moron? Anyways, I got to put the little cover back on, new seal in there. But anyways, that's all I'm doing today.